Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and why the game receives so much hate. One of the reasons why it receives so much hate, and how maybe we can, understanding this reason, can help reduce the hate that D&D gets. So D&D, it really gets a lot of hate. And, of course, you know, the tip of the spear for D&D hate is Twitter, right? People roll at D&D hard for 100 different reasons, right? But I've been watching this new documentary. It's called F1 Drive to Survive, and it's a documentary about Formula One racing. And one of the things, and it is absolutely spectacular. I really think it's every Dungeon Master content, because the biggest thing is this documentary shows how to create drama, right? How to make something more interesting than it even was before, right? So Formula One racing is inherently interesting, but this documentary just highlights the most dramatic parts of Formula One racing. So they want to make a good show. They know it's hard. Actually, just so you're aware, Formula One racing is huge internationally and really small in the U.S. Not a lot of people love Formula One racing, and it's really seen as an international sport, right? Now, I am a fan of it. I really am, right? It's a lot like being a soccer fan, where you're like, yeah, I'm a fan, but like, who else is, right? And but one of the things that in order to make Formula One racing interesting, to make this specifically to make this to make the Formula One racing interesting, the thing that the documentary does is it doesn't talk about Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton at all, right? These guys are the most dominant winners. They're with Ferrari, and they're Sebastian. Actually, I think Sebastian Vettel is with Ferrari, and I think Lewis Hamilton is with Mercedes, right? And so if you were to do a documentary about Formula One racing and you were to talk about Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, the whole documentary would be Sebastian Vettel came in second and Lewis Hamilton came in first. And that would be 9 out of 10 races, right? Maybe like a little less than that or whatever. But like, they dominate the sport so hard that if you're focusing on them, losing is boring. Losing is boring. We didn't really know this. We didn't really understand that losing was this boring, right? And I get it. Like, I couldn't believe it when I watched the documentary. I'm like, wait, am I watching it? And my wife, here's how my wife described this documentary. She said, you're watching a documentary for people who care about who came in 4th place, right? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. But the thing is, I think that's really fascinating is, hey, that's absolutely correct. Like, this is really a focus on the non-dominant winners within Formula One racing. And there's so much drama beyond 1st and 2nd place. But if you're looking at 1st and 2nd place, they're doing the same thing to win every time, right? They don't really do a lot of innovation. There's just a lot of money there, and they innovate, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, just seeing the same people win all the time is boring. And I think that's why D&D gets so much hate. People just hate seeing the same face up every day, as the champion winner. They're like, D&D number one, D&D number one, D&D number one, D&D number one. There was only a brief period in history, just a single brief moment, where Paizo was up for a short amount of time, right? And then D&D quickly stomped them back into the ground. So I think that's one of the reasons why D&D gets hate, is it just wins so dominantly, right? And frankly, it's boring. It is flat out boring, right? So I think it's really interesting to just see how that flows. And I think, I would really like to see, so how do we address that? It's a really good question. I don't know if it's fixable, because people hate a dominant winner not everybody, of course, there are likers, but there are people who love to hate the number one winner. It's just a thing, right? Dallas Cowboys, so much hated that team, because for a long time they were just super dominant winners. So I think it's good that we acknowledge the issue. I think there needs to be more thought on how to fix it. That's my thought. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.